My husband emailed me divorce papers and a photo of him with my own stepsister in our vacation home. The house is mine now. So I calmly finished my morning coffee, replied, "Are you sure about that?" and blocked his phone and email. When he returned, "Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. You know, they say that your life can change in an instant. It's a cliché, I know. You hear it in movies, you read it in books. But you never really believe it. Not really. You think you're safe inside the little world you've built. The routines, the familiar sounds, the love you think is solid as a rock. Until one day, it isn't. For me, that day was a Tuesday. It was 7:15 in the morning here in Nashville, and the early autumn sun was streaming through the kitchen window, making little rainbows in the bevels of the glass. It was the kind of quiet, golden morning that usually promises a good day, the kind that makes you grateful for the simple things. My little girl, Paige, who had just celebrated her first birthday, was in her high chair. She was conducting a very serious symphony with a plastic spoon against her oatmeal tray, babbling away in that secret language only babies know. On the small tablet propped up on the counter, a cartoon about colorful singing bears was playing softly. That sound, her happy, nonsensical chatter mixed with the gentle music, was the soundtrack to my life. It was everything. I remember thinking, right in that moment, how incredibly lucky I was. I was on my second cup of coffee, the good stuff I order from a small roaster in Oregon. The rich, dark aroma filled the kitchen. I took that first sip, the one that truly warms you from the inside out, and felt that familiar sense of peace settle over me. It was a perfect, ordinary moment. And then my phone buzzed on the counter. I almost ignored it. At that hour, it was usually a notification from my business's social media, or maybe a shipping update. Nothing that couldn't wait. But for some reason, that little buzz felt different. It felt sharp. I dried my hands on a dish towel and picked it up. An email. The sender was Gregory, my husband of 5 years. My heart did a little flip. Maybe he was sending a sweet message, a thinking of you like he sometimes did when he was on a business trip. But the subject line wasn't sweet. It was just 2 words, cold and clinical, like a memo from a stranger. Moving on. My breath hitched. My entire body went still. Moving on? What did that even mean? Was it a joke? Maybe his account was hacked. My mind scrambled for a logical explanation, anything to push back the cold dread that was starting to creep up my spine. With a hand that suddenly felt clumsy and disconnected from my body, I opened the attachment. And that's when my perfect, ordinary world shattered into a million pieces. It was a photo. Gregory, my Gregory, the man I had promised my forever to, was standing there, his arms wrapped tightly around a young woman. A blonde, with that fresh, unlined face of someone who couldn't have been a day over 23. But it wasn't just any woman. A wave of nausea washed over me, so strong I had to grip the edge of the counter. It was my stepsister. Brielle. My father had remarried 10 years ago, after my mother passed. His new wife, Sandra, had a daughter from her first marriage. Brielle. She'd always been a fixture in the background of our lives, a constant presence at holidays and family dinners. She was always so sweet, so complimentary. Just last Thanksgiving, she had gushed about how much she admired my business, how she hoped to be a successful entrepreneur like me one day. And all along, this is what she was doing. They were standing in front of our lake house. Our sanctuary. The beautiful A-frame with the wraparound deck that we'd bought just last year. I could see the rocking chairs I'd spent a whole weekend picking out. The place where Paige had taken her first shaky steps on the warm wood. The place where Gregory and I had spent countless nights by the fire, talking about having another baby, talking about growing old together. My eyes, blurry with a disbelief I couldn't fight, scanned down to the body of the email. The words were short, brutal, like tiny, sharp shards of glass designed to cut as deeply as possible. "The house is mine now," it read. "I've already moved in with Brielle. My lawyer will be sending over the divorce papers. Don't bother fighting it. The deed is in my name." I had to sit down. My legs gave out and I sank into a kitchen chair. The coffee mug felt heavy and cold in my hands. I stared at the photo, at Gregory's smug, triumphant grin. At Brielle, looking up at him with this look of doe-eyed adoration, a look I now realized was pure poison. They were in my house. The house that my hard work, my late nights, my single-minded dedication had paid for. A strange sensation started in the pit of my stomach. It wasn't the cold dread of fear. It wasn't even the sharp agony of heartbreak, not yet. No, this was a slow, hot burn. It was pure, unadulterated rage, the kind that makes the air clear and your vision sharp. He really thought he could do this. He really thought he could just detonate our lives with a cowardly email, steal our family home, and I would just, what? Fall apart? Beg? Plead? He had no idea who he was married to. I looked over at Paige. She had finally managed to get a spoonful of oatmeal to her mouth and was beaming with pride. Her bright, innocent eyes, so much like his, met mine. And in that instant, the rage solidified. It wasn't a hot, messy emotion anymore. It became something structured, something cold and strong as steel. This was no longer just about me and my broken heart. This was about my daughter and her future. My gaze drifted to a collage of photos on the kitchen wall. Gregory and me on our wedding day, looking so young and full of foolish certainty. Gregory holding Paige for the first time at the hospital, his face a mask of awe. Us, a family, at the pumpkin patch just last fall. A whole life, a whole history, now reduced to a lie. 5 years of marriage, and this was how he chose to end it. With a smug email and a photo of himself with my stepsister. I took a deep breath, held it for a count of 3, and let it out slowly. The shaking in my hands stopped. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over Gregory's contact photo, a picture of him and Paige at the park. For a split second, a wave of grief hit me. Then, I pressed down hard. Block. A small pop-up asked for confirmation. I tapped it without a second thought. Then, I opened my email and began to type. My fingers were steady now. The reply was only 2 sentences. "Are you sure about that? Better check the paperwork carefully." I hit send. Then, I went to his email address and blocked him there, too. A clean cut. No more communication. The war had been declared, but I would be choosing the battlefield. I turned back to my daughter, and for the first time since opening that email, a real smile touched my lips. It was a grim smile, a warrior's smile. Gregory had always underestimated me. To him, I was the accommodating wife, the one who managed the house and supported his climb up the corporate ladder, all while running my cute little business on the side. That's what he called it. My cute little business. He probably pictured me sitting here right now, sobbing into a Kleenex, wondering how I'd ever survive without him. But he'd forgotten one crucial detail. You don't build a 7-figure e-commerce empire from your spare bedroom by being naive. You don't negotiate deals with international suppliers by being a pushover. And you certainly don't protect your assets by trusting a smooth talker with a charming smile. Gregory was about to find out that my cute little business had taught me how to be a shark. Looking back, I feel like such a fool. The signs were all there, weren't they? Little red flags fluttering in the periphery, but I was too busy. Too busy with a new baby, with a business that was expanding faster than I could keep up. Too busy being the supportive wife. Gregory had started making frequent business trips to the lake house about 3 months ago. He'd spin this whole tale about needing peace and quiet to focus on a massive corporate merger. The city is just too distracting, Carolyn, he'd say, kissing my forehead. I can get a week's worth of work done in 2 days out there. And I bought it. I was proud of him. I'd pack his bag, make sure he had snacks for the drive. What a joke! The irony is, my business was already a success when I met him. I was the one with the assets, the one with the proven track record. But he had this way of subtly rewriting our history. At dinner parties, he loved to tell the story of how he'd helped me turn my hobby into something real. He'd put a paternal arm around my shoulder and say, "She's the creative genius, but I gave her the business savvy." The truth? My company's valuation had tripled since we got married, and it had nothing to do with his savvy. It had to do with the 18-hour days I pulled when Paige was sleeping. The lake house was my dream. I'd found the listing, I'd negotiated the price. And I'd paid for it. In full. A single wire transfer from my business profit account. I'll never forget the look on Gregory's face when I told him. It was a strange mix of pride and something else. Something I couldn't quite place then. Resentment, maybe. He was the one who insisted his name be on the deed. "It's for tax purposes, honey," he'd said, in that smooth, reassuring way of his. "It's a joint asset. It simplifies our estate planning." It sounded so practical, so responsible. But a little voice in the back of my head, the same voice that told me to read the fine print on contracts, whispered a warning. So, I listened. Before we signed, I had my lawyer, Lorraine, draft an ironclad statement of funds document, which Gregory co-signed, legally acknowledging that 100% of the purchase funds originated from my premarital, independently owned business account. It was a safety net, a little piece of paper tucked away in a file, that I hoped I would never, ever have to use. The last few weeks, he'd been so distant. Glued to his phone. He'd lock himself in the home office for hours. When I'd ask about the big merger, he'd get irritated. "It's complicated, Carolyn. You wouldn't understand the complexities of corporate finance." The arrogance of that statement still makes me laugh. This man, whose meager investment portfolio I had been secretly managing for the past 3 years, turning his bland 401k into a nest egg he'd brag about at the country club, was telling me I didn't understand finance. I lifted Paige out of her high chair, wiping the oatmeal from her chubby cheeks. Her little body felt so warm and solid in my arms. I buried my face in her soft hair, breathing in that sweet, baby scent. She had Gregory's dark, curly hair, but she had my eyes. And my fight. I could already see it. This wasn't just about a house or money anymore. This was about protecting her. I walked into my home office, Paige balanced on my hip. The first thing I did was turn on the scanner. I carefully fed each page of the statement of funds and the wire transfer confirmation through the machine. The whirring sound was deeply satisfying. I attached the crystal-clear PDF to an email and sent it to Lorraine. The subject line was simple: "It's happened. Call me." Next, I pulled up the live feed from the security cameras at the lake house. Another little insurance policy Gregory knew nothing about. I'd told him it was for security against break-ins. In reality, it was security against him. And my instincts had been right. The cameras had recorded everything. Every late-night arrival he'd called a work session. Every time Brielle's car pulled up the driveway minutes after his. Every single lie. I was scrubbing through the footage, saving clips, when my phone buzzed. A text from my assistant, Denise. She is my rock, fiercely loyal and smarter than anyone I know. The text just said, "Carolyn, you need to see this." Attached was a link to Brielle's public Instagram profile. My heart pounded against my ribs as I clicked it. It was worse than I could have imagined. There, in glossy, filtered squares, was the entire history of their betrayal. Photos of them at restaurants I loved. Photos of them on the boat I bought. And then, the photos from inside the lake house. In one, Brielle was wearing my favorite cashmere robe, sipping coffee from my favorite mug, the one I'd gotten on a trip to Asheville. She was living in my life, wearing my things, and documenting it for the world. The most recent post, from just last night, was a close-up of her hand. On her finger was a massive diamond ring. I felt the air leave my lungs. It was my grandmother's ring. An heirloom. It wasn't just its monetary value, it was a piece of my soul. I remember my grandmother, her hands gnarled with age, placing it in my palm before she passed. "This is for your daughter one day," she'd whispered. It was Paige's inheritance, a link to the generations of strong women she came from. And now, it was on the finger of the woman who was trying to destroy our family. I scrolled back, a sick, morbid curiosity taking over. And there it was. A photo from 8 months ago. I was in the hospital, recovering from a difficult C-section, and Brielle was at the lake house, holding up a key. The caption read, "Home sweet home with my love." So excited for our new chapter moving in together. The dates aligned perfectly with Gregory's business trips. While I was learning how to be a mother, up all night with a crying newborn, he was playing house with my stepsister. A cold, terrifying thought wormed its way into my mind. If he was this methodical, this deceitful, what else had he done? My hands, though shaking, moved with a will of their own. I opened my banking app. We had a joint savings account, one I'd set up the day Paige was born. It was her college fund. I funneled a significant portion of my company's profits into it every month. It was my sacred promise to her, a guarantee that she would have every opportunity in the world. That's when the second bomb of the day exploded. The account was empty. Gone. Every single cent, nearly $100,000, vanished. I looked at the transaction history. One line item from yesterday, transfer out, to an account number I had never seen before. The rage I'd felt earlier was a flickering candle compared to the inferno that now consumed me. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just lying. This was theft. He had stolen from his own daughter. That's when everything shifted. The grief, the shock, the hurt, it all burned away, leaving something cold, quiet, and razor-sharp in its place. This was no longer a messy divorce. This was a hunt. I was on the phone with the bank's fraud department within seconds, my voice calm and steady as I reported the unauthorized transfer. The agent on the other end was polite but spoke from a script. "Ma'am, since it's a joint account, Mr. Miller technically has the right to move the funds. He has the right to empty his 1-year-old daughter's entire college fund and transfer it to an unknown account the day before he emails me for a divorce? Is that what you're telling me?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. The call was escalated. Next, I called Lorraine. "He emptied Paige's college fund," I said, the moment she answered. While I waited for the bank and my lawyer to trace the money, another call came in from Denise. Her voice was tight. "Carolyn, I found more. I have a friend who is in a private Facebook group with Brielle. She just sent me screenshots. She forwarded them immediately. I read through them, my stomach churning. It was a masterclass in narcissism and greed. Brielle, bragging to her friends about landing a rich, older man. She talked about his boring wife who was too busy with her little online shop to notice what was really happening. There were messages where they joked about how much they were going to take me for in the divorce. One of them read, "He's just waiting for the right time. Then we get the house, the money, everything. And she'll be left with her stupid little website." My stupid little website. A grim smile touched my lips. Gregory had no idea, did he? His ego was so big, so fragile, that he could never bring himself to ask about my company's financials. He just saw the nice cars, the expensive vacations. He assumed it was successful. He had no idea that my little online shop had grossed 8 figures last year. He had no clue that the woman he was married to, the woman he dismissed and underestimated, had a net worth that dwarfed his by a factor of 10. I walked over to the playpen where Paige was now napping peacefully, her chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. "Don't you worry, baby girl," I whispered, stroking her soft cheek. "Mommy built an empire to protect you. And Daddy and his girlfriend just tried to burn it down. They have no idea what's coming for them." The next few hours were a whirlwind of focused, strategic action. My lawyer, Lorraine, arrived at my house before noon. She walked in like a force of nature, all sharp angles and sharper intellect. We set up a command center in my home office. Denise was there, her fingers flying across her keyboard, digging into every corner of their digital lives. I also made a call to a private security firm and had 2 guards stationed discreetly outside my house. An abundance of caution, I told myself. "He's sloppy," Lorraine said, after reviewing the lake house documents and the bank statements. "And arrogant. It's a deadly combination for him, and a gift for us. The deed might be in his name, but this statement of funds is our silver bullet. It's a legal admission that your separate, premarital property was the sole source of the purchase. He has no claim. None." "It gets better," I said, pulling up the security camera feeds. I showed her the footage from 2 days ago. Gregory, methodically carrying several large pieces of art out of the house. "That's a collection I purchased through my company for tax purposes. They are business assets." Lorraine's eyes lit up. "Oh, Gregory," she murmured to herself, scribbling furiously on her legal pad. "You absolute fool. That's not just marital property. That's theft of business assets." As if on cue, my phone rang. An unknown number. I looked at Lorraine, raised an eyebrow, and put it on speaker. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" Gregory's voice spat out of the phone, raw with anger. "I'm learning," I said, my voice a calm counterpoint to his rage. "Check your business email, Carolyn. I told you I had connections. My lawyers have been busy, too." My stomach clenched. While Lorraine and Denise listened, I opened the email. It was an emergency petition. His lawyers were claiming that my entire business had been built using his expertise and corporate connections. They were demanding a full forensic audit and an immediate freeze on all my company's accounts, pending the divorce. The sheer, unmitigated gall of it left me breathless. "You're trying to take my company?" I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "The company I started in my garage with $20,000 of my own money 2 years before I even met you?" He laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Who introduced you to your shipping contractor? Who helped you network at all those corporate events? Face it, Carolyn, you'd be nothing without me. Brielle gets that. She knows how to be appreciative." "Greg," I began, but he cut me off. "And another thing," he snarled, his voice dropping. "My lawyers are going to have a field day with your work schedule. A mother who's constantly on her phone, taking business calls at all hours? It's not a good look. We'll be discussing custody. Paige needs a stable parent. Brielle is wonderful with children. She used to be a nanny, you know." The threat hung in the air, vile and terrifying. Taking my daughter. That was his endgame. To leave me with nothing. But before the panic could take hold, Lorraine, who had been typing silently and furiously on her own laptop, slid it across the desk to me. Her eyes were gleaming. On the screen was an email chain. It was from 3 years ago. An exchange between Gregory and his best friend, Mark. I had found it months ago while organizing his digital files. Gregory was complaining. The email read, "She won't listen to a word I say about her business. Says she doesn't need my help, and the worst part is, she's right. The company's worth more than my annual salary now. It's honestly embarrassing." A slow, cold smile spread across my face. I unmuted the phone. My voice was pure ice. "Gregory," I said sweetly. I just forwarded a little something to your lawyer's inbox. It's an email you sent to Mark Patterson on May 17, 2022. You might want to check with him before you make any more wild claims about building my company. Or about my fitness as a mother. What are you talking about? He stammered. Let's just say your digital paper trail is a lot longer than you think, I said. Call off your lawyers and their ridiculous petition, Gregory. Or the next email I send goes directly to your CEO and your board of directors. I wonder how they'll feel about you claiming to have built my company on their time. The line was dead silent. I could hear his faint, panicked breathing. Then, click. He was gone. For a moment, there was silence in the office. Then Lorraine let out a low whistle. Nice, she said. But the victory was short-lived. A few minutes later, Denise, who had been digging into Gregory's corporate life, gasped. Oh my God. Carolyn, you need to see this. Right now. She spun her monitor around. It was a draft of a press release from Gregory's company, queued up to go live the next day. It was announcing his promotion to Chief Financial Officer. And suddenly, all the pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The timing. The aggression. The scorched earth tactics. This wasn't just a man leaving his wife. This was a calculated business move. He was cleaning house, securing assets, and trying to neutralize me before stepping into a C-suite position. It gets worse, Denise said, her voice barely a whisper. She pulled up the company's internal directory. Look at the CEO's name. Wallace Peterson. Now look at Brielle's. Her full name was Brielle Peterson Sloan. She's his niece. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. This wasn't some torrid love affair. This was a coup. A meticulously planned power play. Gregory hadn't just cheated on me, he had targeted my stepsister, the CEO's niece, to secure his own promotion. The lake house, the stolen college fund, the threat to take Paige, it was all part of his disgusting, ambitious plan to install himself as CFO with a well-connected trophy wife. Lorraine, who had been running searches of her own, looked up from her screen, her face grim. Carolyn, there's more. That big merger Gregory's been working on? It's with one of your biggest competitors. If he becomes CFO, he will have access to a level of insider information that could be used to systematically dismantle and destroy your company. My hands curled into fists. It all made sense now. All those late nights he spent locked in the home office, he wasn't working on merger documents. He was trying to hack into my servers. Denise, I said, my voice sharp. Check the home network logs. I want to see every attempt he made to access my business servers. While Denise typed, Lorraine uncovered another email chain, this one between Gregory and Brielle, from 6 months ago. Their words scrolled across the screen, a testament to their cold-blooded plotting. Brielle wrote, once you're CFO, we can use the insider information to push Carolyn's company out of the market. Uncle Wallace says he'll help. He thinks her ethical sourcing model is a joke and bad for the industry. They had plotted this while I was pregnant. They had schemed to ruin me while I was bringing their daughter, their niece, into the world. Their sheer arrogance was breathtaking. But it had also made them sloppy. Got it, Denise announced. Multiple, repeated attempts to access your business servers from his IP address over the last 2 months. Your firewall held, he never got in. But the attempts are all logged. It's a digital trail of breadcrumbs. That's attempted corporate espionage, Lorraine stated, her voice flat. It's a felony. I stood up and walked to the window. Paige was awake now, playing in her playpen. She looked up at me and smiled. They hadn't just threatened my home and my money. They had threatened her future. They had threatened my life's work. They had underestimated me at every turn. And now, they were going to pay for it. Lorraine, I said, turning back from the window. My voice was calm, clear, and absolute. Draft a new email. Address it to every single member of the board of directors at Gregory's company. We are going to attach the evidence of his attempted corporate espionage. We'll attach the emails between him and Brielle, proving the CEO's complicity in a conspiracy to commit corporate sabotage. And for good measure, add the high-definition security footage of Gregory stealing company assets from the lake house. What about Brielle's Facebook messages? Denise asked. A cold smile touched my lips. Oh, we'll get those to the board, too. Anonymously, of course. I think they'll be very interested to see how their future CFO's fiancé was planning to abuse her connection to the CEO. We were just about to hit send on this career-ending missile when my phone buzzed. A security alert from the lake house. Motion detected in the living room. I pulled up the live feed on the big monitor. And there they were. The unholy trinity. Gregory, Brielle, and her uncle, the CEO, Wallace. They were carrying in boxes of champagne. They were celebrating. Wait, I said to Lorraine, holding up a hand. Let's watch the show for a minute. The audio on the system was crystal clear, another feature Gregory knew nothing about. We watched as Wallace popped a bottle, the cork flying across the room. To the future CFO. Wallace toasted, raising his glass. And to my brilliant niece, who knew how to play the long game. Gregory laughed, a loud, braying sound that made my skin crawl. Carolyn has no idea what's coming. The board announces my promotion tomorrow morning. By noon, our lawyers will have a court order to freeze her company's accounts. She'll be dead in the water within a week. And the best part, Brielle chimed in, her voice dripping with venom, is that she probably still thinks this is just about the house. Wait until she finds out about the offshore accounts. I felt my blood run cold. Denise, I whispered, my eyes never leaving the screen. Offshore accounts. Find them. Denise's fingers were a blur on the keyboard. A few tense minutes passed. Then, her face darkened. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. I found them. Cayman Islands. He's been funneling money from your joint accounts for almost a year. It wasn't just Paige's college fund. He's siphoned off nearly $300,000. The scale of his betrayal was staggering. The affair, the house, it was all just a smokescreen for a massive, long-term financial heist. But then, Wallace said the words that sealed their fate. Once Carolyn's company tanks, he said, taking a large gulp of champagne, our merger with competitor X goes through without a hitch. Her market share will be ours for the taking, and that troublesome ethical business model of hers will be nothing but a bad memory. So that was it. This was never just about Gregory's greed. It was about crushing my company because we were a threat. Because we proved that you could be successful without cutting corners, without exploiting people. Okay, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Send the email to the board, Lorraine. But first, add one more attachment. Access the encrypted drive on my backup server. The password is Paige's birthday. Attach the file marked insurance. Lorraine's eyes widened as the file decrypted and opened on her screen. For years, while managing Gregory's finances, I had stumbled upon irregularities. Questionable accounting practices, back-channel deals, things that were deeply unethical and likely illegal within his company. I had documented everything, creating a comprehensive file just in case he ever tried to pull something. I never thought I'd have to use it. Carolyn, Denise said, her voice tense. He's trying to get into the servers again. Right now. From the lake house. I looked at the screen. Gregory had excused himself and was in the lake house office, my office, hunched over the computer. He was desperate. My IT team is ready, Denise said. They created a ghost portal. It'll look like he's getting in, but all he's doing is recording his own illegal hacking attempt for us. Perfect, I said. Let him in. Let him think he's finally winning. I looked at Lorraine. The email is ready? She nodded. Ready to deploy. I took one last look at the monitor. At the three of them, celebrating their victory, completely oblivious to the digital guillotine hanging over their heads. Do it. The aftermath was almost instantaneous. We watched it all unfold in real time on the monitor. Not even 3 minutes after Lorraine hit send, Wallace's phone rang. We watched his florid, happy face collapse into a mask of gray, ashen horror. What do you mean, an emergency board meeting? He bellowed into the phone. Who sent what evidence? That's impossible. Then Gregory's phone buzzed, and then Brielle's. The color drained from Gregory's face. The servers. He whispered, looking at his laptop in terror. She knew. She recorded it. Carolyn knew. And now for the grand finale, I murmured. Right on cue, Brielle's phone began to explode with notifications. Our anonymous tipster had just forwarded her entire Let's Ruin the Boring Wife Facebook chat history to every board member and the company's top 10 investors. The scene in the lake house devolved into pure chaos. Wallace was screaming into his phone. Gregory was frantically trying to shut his laptop, as if he could put the genie back in the bottle. Brielle was sobbing hysterically, her perfect makeup running down her face in black, tragic rivers. And then, the most beautiful sight I have ever seen. Red and blue lights, flashing silently through the trees, coming up the long gravel driveway. Turns out, when you provide a district attorney with ironclad evidence of multi-million-dollar corporate espionage, conspiracy to commit fraud, and embezzlement, they take it very, very seriously. I picked up Paige from her playpen and held her close, her warm little body pressed against mine. I pointed to the monitor. See that, baby girl? I whispered into her soft hair. That is what happens when people underestimate your mommy. The last thing I saw before the feed cut out was Gregory being led away in handcuffs. He was still shouting, his voice thin and reedy through the laptop speakers, "It's my house. The deed is in my name." And that was it. The end of my marriage. The end of their careers. The end of the life I thought I had. If you're still listening to this, and I truly hope you are, could you do me a small favor? Please help me by liking this video and just commenting the number 1 down below. It lets me know that you've given me a like, and it tells me that you've been right here with me through this whole incredible journey. Your support, even something so simple, is a huge encouragement for me to keep sharing. So please, just comment the number 1, and then let me tell you how everything turned out. The fallout was swift and absolute. Within 24 hours, both Gregory and Wallace were fired in disgrace. The board's investigation, spurred on by my insurance file, uncovered years of fraudulent practices that went far beyond their plot against me. Last I heard, they are both facing significant jail time. Brielle? Her 15 minutes of infamy were brutal. The story went viral in the business world. Her name became synonymous with corporate scandal. She moved back in with her mother, deleted all her social media, and has, for all intents and purposes, disappeared. The offshore accounts were frozen. Every single penny Gregory stole was located and returned to me, with interest. And the lake house, the place he so arrogantly claimed was his? The court laughed his claim out of the room. The deed was transferred solely to my name, right where it should have been all along. The divorce was the easiest part of the whole ordeal. He had no leverage, no assets, and no credibility. He lost everything. As for me, my company thrived. When the story broke, we were flooded with support. Customers and investors, tired of the usual corporate greed, were drawn to our ethical business model. We expanded, hiring more people, growing into the very market space that Gregory and Wallace had tried to keep us out of. Our integrity became our brand. Paige and I spend most of our weekends at the lake house now. The first time we went back, I smudged the whole place with sage, just in case. Now, it's our happy place. We have bonfires, we swim in the lake, we watch the sunset from the deck. We are making new memories, good ones, washing away the stain of the past. I still have that email Gregory sent me. I printed it out, framed it, and it hangs on the wall in my office, right next to my first business license. It's a reminder. A reminder of the day my world fell apart, but also a reminder that I was the one who had the strength to put it back together, stronger than it was before. It's a reminder to never, ever underestimate a woman who has built something worth protecting. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to tell, but it feels good to finally get it all out. If you've ever been through something that tested your strength, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Your stories inspire me. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more. You take care now.